Hello everyone, this is Renier, and today we have a recent gameplay between Grandmaster Alexander Areschenko and Steinnick. Okay, the game was played in the Bundesliga, and I selected this game. Is a Sicilian Birmingham. Recently, Steinnick published a book on the Nadorf, but he also mentioned e6, for example, against the bishop e2 line, the positional line, transposing to Birmingham territory, of course. Okay, so this is probably one of the reasons why I selected this game, but not just that. I think the line we're going to see today is quite critical for black. And okay, let's start with this. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, knight c3, e6. Steinnick usually plays a6, but also e6. At any rate, he will most likely transpose to this Birmingham, even if he plays a6 first. So bishop e2. Areschenko always plays this line: a6, castle, bishop e7, f4, queen c7, and now white plays a tricky move order here. He plays king h1, because what is the deal here? First of all, white wants to play a specific line inside the Birmingham with queen e1. That's the plan we're going to take a look at, and with queen e1 and queen g3. The problem is that the move like a4 it doesn't fit with that plan. The move a4 right here, it doesn't fit with this plan, and black can actually play knight c6 or even b6, transposing to the main lines. And also a move like bishop e3, which is in the cards, allows black to play b5 in this position with complications that shouldn't be worse for him. With the move king h1, white plays an useful move and waits for black to develop. I believe that if black doesn't want to play the main lines with knight c6, then he should castle. b5 here is not so good, in my opinion. I think the best move is probably castle or knight c6, the move played in the game. Okay, after castle, white could play a4, bishop e3, and he also has a third alternative that could be g4 immediately. Supposedly it's good, but perhaps it's not great. I mean, black can play maybe rook e8, maybe even b5. Rook e8 with the idea of g5, knight d7, and bishop f8 quickly. But let's have a look at the move b5. Why isn't it good? For example, b5. Okay, after bishop f3, bishop b7, the main problem for black is that he hasn't castled yet, and white can break in the center with e5. After d takes on e5, pawn takes on e5, and now black is in a difficult situation. He cannot take on f3, and knight d7 runs into bishop f4. I believe this move is stronger than bishop b7, even though it looks good at first sight after queen g4, but black has the amazing resource of knight c6. And taking on g7 is simply not so good. Black will castle queenside, and he will have enough counterplay on the g file and the queen on b7. That's for sure. Probably white still maintains a small advantage, or well, I think white would be better after knight f3. It hasn't been played, but I think his position is better, just like this. But knight takes on c6, queen takes c6. This is the more uh, this is more often played, and I believe black should be okay in this position. Queen takes g7, queenside castle, black looks okay. Also there are ideas with b4 here. No, like I said before, on move 13 I like for white the move bishop f4, maintaining the e5 pawn. And now there are some tactical reasons why I prefer bishop f4. For example, after castle, just bishop b7 takes, and then queen g4, if we compare, is a better version of the same idea. Bishop a6 is a threat, and also knight takes on e6 ideas on the next move. Alright, so, and if black tries to delay castle by playing knight c6 first, then white has not the only one, but very interesting move, knight f5. That's one of the advantages of having the bishop on f4. Black is forced to take, otherwise if bishop f8, knight d6 is a clear advantage. And now e6. Queen takes on f4, of course, not so good, because it loses after queen takes d7, check, and then queen takes b7 or bishop c6. So knight e5 is the only move, knight d to e5. And now it takes on f7, king f8. Of course not king takes on f7 because of queen d5 check, followed by bishop takes on e5. White regains the piece with advantage. So king f8, and now knight d5. This is a series of forced moves. After queen d7, knight takes on e7, queen takes, bishop takes on e5, and now there are two moves. First of all, queen takes on e5 is not very good after queen d7. White regains the piece, is taken on c6 and b7, and queen e7 just bishop c6. White has the advantage here. Alright, so what else? Knight takes on e5. Black is up a piece, but his king on f8 is uncomfortable, and after bishop b7, queen takes, and rook takes f5, the knight on e5 must take, the pawn on f7, and then queen d4. It's a funny position. Black is up a piece, but his position is not good. White will play rook f1 with good pressure. Probably will take on f7, trading the two rooks for the black queen. I don't think black can save the piece here. I believe it's impossible. Okay, it's an interesting line. It's forced after knight c6 here, knight f5. The whole series of moves is forced for both sides, I think. Okay, so b5 is out of the question, I think. b5 seems a dubious move to me. So knight c6 is a standard move transposed into the main lines of this opening. Now white can play bishop e3, and after castle, then he can play queen e1. This line, for some years now, has turned into the most dangerous line inside this opening. And actually in his book Steinlich doesn't mention it, because in his move order this line cannot be reached, and that's something strange, because here he couldn't avoid it either. So okay, what's the deal? He wants to play queen g3 and rook e1 or d1, depending on how black plays. Okay, theory recommends knight takes d4, that's the move played in the game, and after bishop takes b5. It makes sense for black, of course, if white doesn't play a4, to take on d4 and play b5, to continue with bishop b7 and put pressure on e4, a3, securing the position of the knight on c3, bishop b7, and now queen g3. Okay, black cannot take on e4 because of the mate on g7, of course. Alright, now this is the critical position of the line. Usually the main move here was considered to be bishop c6, with the idea of queen b7, for example, attacking e4, but also to support the pawn on b5 and play a5 and b4. That's one of the ideas of bishop c6. But there are also other moves, like the move played in the game that was rook d8, and nowadays is the main move. The idea behind rook d8 is to try to anticipate the move e5 by white. White with the rook on d8, white is forced to take on e5 with the bishop, which is not so dangerous for black. Okay, but let's have a look at bishop c6 first. And now white would play rook e1, and okay, there are some interesting lines here. Usually black, what is white's plan? White wants bishop d3 or bishop f3 and then e5. For example, if black now plays rook e8, this move, the idea is to anticipate bishop d3. If white plays now bishop d3, then black can play e5, which is very good. Usually is the desired move to stop all the attack. Not only you shut the dark square bishop, but also the bishop on d3 has no chances of being active again. So after pawn takes on e5, knight h5, followed by d takes on e5 with a good position for black. But then after rook e8, of course, white thought of something better. He thought about bishop f3, and this makes the whole rook on e8 a little bit pointless. Okay, after bishop f3, then black reorganize his pieces by playing rook d8, but then white has knight d5, and this has been played a couple of times. It's an amazing move. Of course, black must take, and after pawn takes, black must move the bishop, and now white has the move rook takes on e7. A good sacrifice, because after queen takes on e7, rook e1, black has no choice but to take on e1 with the queen, and then queen takes, and the position seems perhaps just a little better for white. After knight takes on d5, queen g3, f6, h3, just a little better. I'm not saying that white is winning or anything, but just a little better. Actually, maybe it's an equal position. I wouldn't know exactly what to do after, let's say, a move like I don't know, rook e8. It's important for white to keep the bishop pair, but I'm not sure how to make any progress. Okay, but this is a different story. This is with the move bishop c6, and we are going to look at rook d8. That is the main move these days. Those who have played this line will immediately agree with this. And now rook e1. Now we're going to see an interesting move, and difficult to explain for those who are not familiar with this variation, is the move rook d7. Such a strange move, but it's a necessity, because with this move not only black defends the second rank from a future attack, but also it frees the d8 square for the queen. Why do you need the d8 square for the queen? Well, basically black wants to play rook e8, bishop f8, g6 and bishop g7. Cannot do this without the queen on d8, because the knight on f6 would be hanging. Also, if at some point with the queen on d8 black moves the knight, there are chances for bishop h4 in some variations, for example with knight e8 and bishop f6 too, to trade the dark square bishop. What else? Oh well, the other reason is that after queen d8 black adds another strong piece on the d file, anticipating the rupture of e5 that may happen in the future. Okay, now white plays bishop d3. We're heading into the critical position. Another move is bishop f3, but it usually doesn't make sense with the rook on e1. For instance, black can play queen c4 and maybe b4 on the next move. I think bishop d3 is the most dangerous line. Rook e8, and now we're going to see the critical move by white here, and that move is rook e3. This move might put the whole system for black under question. It's a very interesting move, and the idea is, of course, to bring the rook on the third rank for multiple purposes, but it's just more than that. For example, let's have a look at what has been played after rook e3. In the game, black played g6, which seems okay, but let's see a move like queen d8, for example. This was played by Christian Sasikiran in 2009 against Caruana. Okay, it's the main idea by black to play queen d8, but then queen h3. There are some black clouds already against the black castle. e5 or rook g3 ideas are a little bit scary. So black plays g6, and now white changes his mind and plays very strong move rook f3. Why so strong? Well, the threat is f5. That's what he wants to play. And it doesn't matter that the bishop on b7 is pinning the e4 pawn, still white will play f5. In that game, black went d5, and after f5 he was under big pressure. For example, d takes on e4, that's how the game continued. F takes on g6, f takes, rook takes on f6, rook d4, rook f7. Black is forced to play an ugly move like bishop h4, blocking the h file, and then after bishop e2, white has a clear advantage. The rook on f7, better pawn structure, black pieces lack coordination, so white went on to win later. So d5 is not convincing at all, but the move bishop f8 perhaps is possible. Perhaps I'm not sure. Still, I believe white would be better after f5. It takes on f5, it takes on f5, and the problem is that if black takes on f3 now, white takes on g6, and he's threatening mate. He's threatening mate with bishop f6, so black must play something like bishop g7, and after queen f3, the knight on f6 is lost. Also the pawn on h7, everything looks lost here. On rook e6, bishop f5 seems to win. It's a very bad position. So after he takes on f5, black still can play g5, but that's not something that I would enjoy playing. After a move like rook g3, h6, and now knight d1 looks very strong. The idea of knight d1 is to take on f6 and play knight e3 or knight f2 followed by knight g4, and there won't be any way to defend the pawn on h6. Okay, so I believe that after rook e3, black needs new ideas. Actually, in this position, this is a move that can put the whole line for black into question. In the game, Tangnik, very well-known theorist for his opening analysis and for his opening knowledge, he played g6. Okay, after rook f3, there is also another interesting game by Kamsky with the white pieces, who continue with knight e2, but you can see he didn't get much. After queen d8, just to see what the black plan is, this game chose queen h3, bishop f8, queen h4, bishop g7, rook h3, h6. This looks acceptable for black. e5, knight e4, offering the trade of queens, and after queen e1, d takes on e5. Here we can see how the queen on d8 and the rook on d7 was strong. Now the bishop on d4 is hanging, so he has to take. And f6, rook e3, knight c5, and black created sufficient counterplay. He's taking on d3, and after bishop g6, this seems like the best right. The move played by Kamsky, pawn takes on e5, but still it looks okay for black. And queen d5, probably the game ended in a draw, and it's probably a good result, but I don't think black is in danger here. Okay, this game shows how what is the black defensive plan about. But this move, rook f3, is very, very strong. The idea is to play f5. For example, after queen d8, it just transposes to the Caruana game after queen h3, followed by f5, bishop f8, f5. Okay, Stagnik reacted in the same way that Sasikiran did with d5, only that the position is a little bit different. And now, after d5, white went e5. Knight e4, of course, and queen e1. The queen is good on e1 because it puts some pressure on e4, but also it's not in the way of the remaining pieces. White wants to play g4 and f5 sometimes, and also sometimes f5 immediately is possible too. We're going to see some of this in the rest of the game. For example, let's have a look at some variations. For example, after knight takes on c3, of course not bishop takes c3 because of d4, but b takes on c3, and taking on a3 is just very bad. After queen f2, white is ready to play f5 on the next move. Queen f2 is important so the bishop on d4 doesn't get trade off with bishop c5. Also, queen f2 puts pressure on the f file. Now after bishop f8, for example, f5, e takes on f5, bishop takes on f5, and black cannot take because of rook g3. Check, and if bishop g7 then rook takes g7 and e6, or if king h8 e6 check. So looking back, if rook c8 perhaps is the best for black to just hold on there, but I believe white would be better after a move like rook h3. Not doing anything yet, but at some point queen e3 or maybe g4 and f5. As long as the bishop on d4 doesn't move, there is no danger of the bishop on b7 getting activated. Okay, Stagnik played b4, and after pawn takes on b4, bishop takes on b4, rook h3. I have to say, other move was knight b5, but doesn't look like much. After, okay, bishop e1, knight c7, rook c7, rook e1 looks a little bit better for white. But queen a5 and then c3, bishop e7, knight d6, and now black should give the bishop on d6 and keep the knight on e4. But white of course has compensation. Good compensation, I must say, because of the black weakness on the dark squares. I have to say that also knight takes on d6 is not good, because after pawn takes on d6, bishop takes on d6 and queen h4, the position looks very very scary here. The threat is queen h7 and rook h3, so also queen f6. So knight d6 is not just it's not possible. Okay, after bishop b4, probably white dismissed knight b5 just because of bishop e1. It's a slightly better endgame, but not winning yet. Okay, so white went rook h3, and now queen d8, queen e3. At some point white would be willing to move knight e2 and c3. The knight can later go to the king side with knight g3, or even knight g1, knight f3. As the center is blocked, white has all the time in the world. The knight on f3 can later go to g5. So now Stagnik did a move that shows that black is already under a big pressure. I would play bishop f8. I wouldn't move the knight from e4 for anything. Bishop f8 and try to resist with bishop g7, h6 seems like a good move, but still it's difficult because you don't see a clear path for black, I mean, sorry, on how to continue, where to attack. There are no weakness in white's camp, so Stagnik played knight c3, a move that I didn't like at all, and after pawn takes on c3, perhaps his initial idea was to play bishop takes on c3, and only then he realized that after bishop c3, bishop takes g6 is strong. Black is forced to take on g6 with the f pawn to communicate the rook with the king side, and after queen c3, this is an opposite color bishop middle game, but white is better. White is better because of the black king being so weak and the bishop on b7 being too passive. Perhaps this is better than the game, but I still doubt that that black would enjoy to play this. There are many ideas here. Stuff with g4, maybe queen g3, and white can always play c3. Move the queen and play c3. The bishop on d4 is passive, but it's also blocking the d5 pawn that keeps the bishop on b7 shut, and also at the time that white plays g4 and f5, the bishop on d4 will be very strong. I mean g4 and f5, that's what I meant. Okay, so Stagnik played bishop f8, and now white played an amazing move. That move is f5. You can see how strong and how dangerous this attack is for black. If g takes on f5, white would play rook takes on f5. Amazing move. Now there are many threats: rook h7, rook h5, rook g5. Everything is a threat here. So e takes on f5 is the only move, and after rook g3, king h8, e6, f6, white has the amazing queen g5, threatening checkmate on g8, threatening bishop takes on f6. The rook on d7 is also there. Cannot be taken right now because rook e1, but is there attack by the pawn on e6, and after rook g7, queen f5. The rook cannot take on g3 because of queen h7. Bishop f6 is on the next move, and white is winning in this position. I think there is no defense for black. Okay, that's how strong f5 is. So if not possible to take with the g pawn, then he should take with the e pawn as he did in the game. But the problem is bishop takes on f5. Alright, the deal here is that if black moves the rook, let's say to c7, white will play e6, and after pawn takes on e6, bishop takes on g6, or bishop takes on e6 check, anything would win. Rook c7, e6 wins by attack. So black is forced to take on f5. Now the g file is open, and of course white will play e5, e6 in any minute. So rook g3 first, king h8, e6, and f6. There is no defense actually. After rook takes on f5, black must defend f6 somehow, so he plays bishop g7, and now white plays rook h5. This move only shows that we are only humans, because he missed a very strong move, crushing rook takes on f6. Amazing move. It's very strong, and it's very pretty, because after bishop takes on f6, well, queen takes f6 is the only move, but bishop takes f6 receive a very nice refutation after e7. Great move, attacking the queen, leaving the bishop on f6 completely unprotected. Black has no choice here, just queen takes on e7, and then bishop takes on f6, queen takes, queen e8, queen f8, queen takes, checkmate. So it's absolutely amazing, the move rook takes on f6. The only chance would be to take with the queen, but then after bishop takes on f6, bishop takes, e takes on d7, rook takes on e3, rook takes. It's impossible to prevent d8. On the next move, white will play rook e8 and followed by d8, and bishop c6 is met with well, rook e8 and d8, or even rook e6 should win. The move played in the game is less pretty, but it's still winning. Rook h5, attacking the weak spot h7, rook c7, and now queen d3. Bishop f8 is met with queen f5, for example, attacking f6. So he plays h6, the only move, and now the final combination. rook takes on g7, eliminating the defender of h6. If king takes on g7, queen g3 check, king f8, and rook takes on h6 is winning. There is no defense against rook h8 check, among other things, of course. So black has to take with the rook, and then rook takes on h6, king g8, and queen h3, and black resigns. It's mate. Even king f8, I think rook takes on f6 is one way, bishop takes on f6 is another, bishop c5 is a third way. So this is why black resigns. There is no real defense. Okay, this is it. I hope you enjoyed this game. For those who play bishop e2 lines against Schwenningen or Najdorf, have a look at this line, because I think that the whole idea with rook e3 is very strong and very annoying for black. Okay, in this game we saw how white created a terrible attack with f5, and also I like how the queen maneuvers to e1, to e3, then to d3 to attack h7, and then finally to h3. That's something very nice. Okay, everybody, thanks for watching my videos. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.